Hello and welcome back to another video with me, Coffee Guy. This time it's going to be a World of Tanks console video. I do some World of Warships Legends content as well, but this time it's going to be focusing on tanks, and this time we're going to be going back to basics. I thought it would be really interesting, given how far the game has progressed, to look back to one of the very first premium tanks to come out, the Matilda IV. And to really ask the question, how does it stack up given the hundreds of new tanks in the game? How good is this original premium? Is it still worth having? Is it still fun to play? So I hope you'll be able to answer those questions as we go forward. But before we do start, just a quick note to say, realise it has been a while since I've published. I'm sorry about that. It's just one of those things. It's not really a full-time job doing this. It's just whenever I get the spare time, and sometimes life does get in the way. But wanted to say I really do appreciate all of my subscribers messaging me when I'm playing. It's really nice. So do keep it up and do keep getting in touch with suggestions for new reviews. I will definitely try my best to get around to them. And with that said, let's get over to the Matilda IV. So Matilda, a lot of you will be familiar with it in the tech tree. It's a tier 4 British medium. Historically, it's based on what the British would have called infantry tanks, which were slow moving, roughly aimed to walk at the pace of drive at the pace of a walking man, rather. So they were quite slow and heavily armed. And the tech tree tank, I think, gets a 2-pounder gun. But we also have a number of tier 5 premium versions of the Matilda in the game. We've got this one, the Matilda IV, which comes in the Russian tech tree. And that, I think, is because whilst it's a British tank, during the war, a number were supplied to the Soviet Union as part of Lend-Lease. I think it performed quite well on the Eastern Front. I think the Russians liked its protection. I think there were some complaints about it not being so good in really wet and snowy and boggy conditions, because stuff used to just get stuck behind those side panels and bog it down. But of course, the other thing to consider at this point, Eastern Front, is about 1941-42. Things have moved on quite a lot from when the Matilda first came in 1939. So that original 2-pounder gun is no longer very good when it's coming up against heavier German equipment, Panzer IVs, and even starting to see some of their heavier tanks like the Tiger Is. And so when the Russians received it, they did modifications, including putting their own gun on it. And this is what we see here with the Matilda IV. It has a 76mm Russian gun, and that's its main difference over the other ones. But we do also have, as I mentioned, two other tier 5 premium versions of the Matilda. We've got the Defiance Matilda, which comes in on the British line, and also the Black Prince Matilda. And I'll reference across to those as we go through, just to let you know which one of those should you go for. If you were just going to pick one of those three, which one do I think would be the best? So that's enough about the background of the tank. Let's jump into the garage and look at some stats. Okay, so looking at the gun stats first, you get the 76mm Zis 96 gun, which is the main distinguishing feature of this tank. It does give you the highest damage at 110 compared to the other tier 5s. Slightly worse penetration at 86, giving you overall very respectable DPM of 1834. Moving on to look at the turret, 38 degrees traverse. That's best in class out of the other tier 5 Matildas by a few degrees. Engine is also another huge selling point, top of the class here as well, with a top speed of 30 km going forward and 12 in reverse. Hull rotation, I think, is fairly average from what I can see. I'm actually looking at that as well, that looks to be highest out of the tier, so you've got that mobility there. And I think the radio and signal range is pretty standard. So heavy hitting gun, pretty mobile, slightly less DPM than the Black Prince, but not by much. And to try and amplify these stats, you can see that I've gone with gun loading, with aiming, and also with an engine boost to give me a little bit more horsepower and speed there. Armour scheme is very similar. I don't think there's much to really talk about there. It's the same as on the Defiance. Similar to Black Prince, apart from the turret, where the armour on the Mark IV is a little bit better. And the only other thing to point out while we're here in the garage is the silver earning is an extra 50% boost, which is pretty comparable to the Defiance. Defiance is 49% and Black Prince is 53%, so not much to go on there. Final thing that Matilda IV has going in its favour is cost. It's 1500 gold compared to 2300 for the Defiance Matilda, and 1750 for the Matilda Black Prince. And if you wait until, if you like a deal like I do, and wait for Wargaming to have one of their Tech Tree Premium sales on, which happen around Christmas and usually around kind of Black Friday as well, you can probably get about 30% off, so you can pick this tank up for about 800 or 900 gold. So absolute steal, I would say. And to back that up, I'm now going to take you into a game and show you how this thing handles. Okay, so here we are on Heilbronn. It is a tier 6 game. I thought it'd be quite good to show you all a tier 6 game. I feel like it's a lot easier with this tank on tier 5. It's actually probably a very strong tank at that level. Again, tier 6 is, you do have to play a little bit more strategically, but there are a number of strengths with this tank that you can kind of play to your advantage, and I'll try and talk you through some of them as we go through the video. So first thing I think to point out is probably the obvious, which is that it does get preferential matchmaking, so you will only see tier 6 top, and you won't go up against any tier 7s, which, if I'm absolutely honest, is a bit of a mercy. I don't think, as much as I like this tank, I certainly don't think it could hold its own at tier 7. But this tank is not, it's not really going to be much of a brawler against tier 6s, so I made a decision that going into the town is probably not the best idea. But what it does have going in its favour is the gun is situated relatively high up on the turret. And this tank also benefits from having very good elevation and depression. I think it's got plus 25 degrees and minus 14, which is the best out of all of those tier 5 premium Matildas. And what it does let you do is it lets you kind of wiggle your way up behind rocks and ridge lines just to the point so that only your gun is poking over. Let off a quick shot, duck back again, and let off another quick shot, and keep doing that, and it minimises how much of your tank you're exposing to the enemy. So I've made a bit of use of that, showing off my absolutely atrocious aiming skills in the process. And then decided to come down now and push forward and support my team's advance along here. And just keeping second rank, second line, is the right thing to do, I think, when you find yourself in support in tier 6. And just take shots at those distracted enemies. Again, your armour will save you from a few hits at tier 6, but it's not gonna let you brawl it out with heavy, so you want to be avoiding shots if you can. So we get quite a nice set of hits on Citadel here. And again, what we're doing here is really just trying to use that rate of fire to keep him tracked. Because again, it's not just the direct damage you do, it's all the assisted damage. And again, by being just behind our allies here, we're able to take advantage of distracted enemies as they rush past and get nice shots into their side. Note there, I stopped paying attention, pushed a bit too far forward, and been punished for that a little bit, taking a nasty hit there. So what I'm trying to do quite urgently now is just to pull back and minimise the amount of shots I can take. At this point I'm in quite a nice position because I can use my pretty good spotting range on this tank. So to keep things distracted behind me, and I can make the most out of assist damage coming on here. Just to flag, that view range again at 360 metres is very good for tier 5, and it is also again, best down of those tier 5 premium Matildas as well. Even so, you can start to see the limitations now of being a Matilda in a tier 6 game. I've taken a hell of a beating, and I'm trying to make up my mind what the best thing to do right now is, because I don't really want to go and face the OI, because of one more hit and I'll be done. I've also got an injured gunner as well, which is going to impact on accuracy a little bit. So I'm thinking clever thing to do probably is just to sit and keep things spotted until more of a team can arrive. But looking at the map, I think we're not going to get support for a little while. We've got one guy who seems to be camping by the base. The other half of my team seem to have broken through on the right hand flank and are now going to camp the enemy base, which is the right thing to do. And so I decided that the best thing actually is probably go around the other side of the rock and try and help out these allies and try and hold up the two enemy tanks that look to be pushing out here. My aim was perhaps if I can track them and slow them down a little bit, get some more assisted damage. Limited success. But you know, I figured it would be more exciting than just hiding behind the rock, because there's not really much else that I can do in that situation. But I'm not too bothered about that outcome. It looks like our team is well on the way to a victory. And so yeah, let's wrap that up. Do I think this tank is still competitive, given the hundreds of new premium tanks that have come in since it originally came out? Yes, I do. I think it is very competitive. I think it's got a lot of stats in its favour over the other premium Matildas, particularly in terms of things like its DPM, damage, general gun handling, and elevation and depression. So I think you can have some fantastic games in it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it's maybe inspired you to pick this tank up. As always, do let me know if you have any requests for reviews on other tanks, either in comments below the video. Really would appreciate likes and subscribes. And I'll see you all soon. Coffee Guy out.